We don't need Jesus to die for us. Yes, we do. Here's why. Here's the truth. Our slender existence on this planet is played out in types of blood. We either submit to the mafia-type protection scandal of appeasement to spirits, with the system I will describe, or like Jews, we paint blood upon our doorposts and escape the avenging angel. Now it's the blood of Jesus Christ alone which is our covering. Angels who fell are consigned to judgment. So the same judgment that they have been promised, they want to make sure happens to us. And to be fair, God has to allow that. But the true rescue isn't even from Egypt in the first Passover. It's in the Passover of the Lamb, capital L. Here's the dreadful tale nobody really knew on earth until these last 12 years of exposure. Every year, untold thousands of children die, some bred, some snatched from the streets or social care homes. Jesse Sabota is revealing the very architecture, the very designs of the buildings and symbols which show where the ritual murders take place. We walk past these very buildings and coats of arms. Principalities and powers demand these sacrifices in return for top positions on their manufactured pyramids of Fortune 500, army, government, media, churches. Our only escape is Jesus. He's our only legitimacy left. We don't need Jesus to die. Rule over us. One thing that going to different countries teaches us is that you can have a totally different way of living, but it all works in the context. You can't change little bits and move them wholesale, that's the word, straight into another country, can you? Because the parameters surrounding it have to readjust. So certain, what we would consider mad ways of Italian behaviour as British people work in Italy because of a huge family consciousness and social cohesion that works when bureaucracy is all over the place. We tend to go mainly for bureaucracy and systems and be blown the family. Seems to be how it works here. So, but in other countries you have different shapes and angles on things, and it kind of works in all the nations, sort of, to a certain extent. As I've been saying, the whole pyramid idea that we have lived with now for 6,000 years does not work, has never worked, and now the hard and fast statistics are coming in thick and fast through our messenger at 6 a.m. in the morning or wherever, you know. So it's coming, by being interlinked, we start to get hardwired information that in fact the pathetic, lousy, absolute dirt, rock bottom life that we live as a total structure, because I live swanning around, you know, in the West we live swanning around sometimes, but the truth is 4 billion people live under $5 a day. That's the hard-wired truth coming through our messenger from all the other nations every day. And we weren't living in each other's pockets before this. And so now we're finding. So therefore the Luciferian system that we currently live in, that is disguised as nicey humanism, is a total bollocksy lie, to put it the strongest I could, isn't it? It's total rubbish. We are living in a fantasy land, and God is shaking us up through the internet, through having information coming back. BBC do their little bit with their days of need, and showing films of Kenya and all the places that they're trying to help to make people in England feel slightly better about themselves, giving for one day a year to the BBC, and we never know if the funds actually get there properly or what they actually do, because it's secular people handling things, usually from a desktop, and or sort of an outer understanding of things, where they think if we can just give an outer object to someone who lives in an outer way, they will be fine. And this is the secular rubbish that we live and have lived now for 200 years in the Enlightenment. Most of the original, quite, fairly much of the heart operations of individual Christians in churches, which then became hospitals, which then became tutelage centres, like in Cambridge and Oxford, when tutors were dealing direct with an individual, a young individual who had to be trained not just intellectually, but for coping at an administrational level, perhaps, in countries, dealing with real human beings and real situations. But then we went into this stupid, secular, daft, surface world that doesn't even honour the fourth quartile person, doesn't even honour them. In fact, it writes every morning on Facebook, what can you do about ADHD? Shut up and listen. We're not just people with ADHD, we are living beings. Sit down, put duct tape over your mouth and shut you up. Shut you right up. So we're talking about something that has to be solved. And we can't just solve it using a Bill Gates wiring us up to computer, AI system through Wi-Fi. I don't care what my wife says. I don't care the lies that come out of her or her stepdaughter or her husband. I don't care about the dream world, the fantasy world that she lives in. I care only that we start to grow up as Christians and we start to really grab hold of what was in the Bible in the first place. Living in these dream world Catholic, monstrous sort of absolute outer systems that create hard hearts, that create further establish the world in its own fantasy land regarding religion. It calls it religion. It calls it religion because that's what Catholicism is. It's a religion. It's not actually knowing Jesus. It's a pain in the neck in the world. It's not. It's establishing itself and insinuating itself with the occult, with all the other brotherhoods in the system, running all our agencies like Edam cheese, eating the cheese from the inside into great big holes. Have I got the right cheese? Edam? Which one has the holes in? Emmental? Gouda? I don't know. So there's times of division and sliding and slipping. So the gospel first started appearing when people started being able to read the Bible in their own languages, which the Catholics had forbidden. They'd have probably had reasons for that, some good reasons somewhere. It wasn't just Satan breathing through their brains. They'd have had some reasoning behind that. But as soon as humans started getting hold of the Bible, they could see their rights. They could see who God has made us. They could see our sovereign right to resist the devil. Submit to God, resist the devil, and he must flee. There's no argument. He must legally flee. And so you start coming into an authority that means that you start thinking more about democracy, and that's what happened in the 1500s, leading to the 1600s. There was a deposing of the stronghold of a king, a pyramid authority, an Egyptian pharaoh authority over a country. Why? Because people were starting to take more practical action and responsibility. They're not slope-shouldering so much. And now with enlightenment, we've been reduced to this two-party state where all the manifesto and everything's thought up for us. And we get this choice between two fairly good ideas and a few satanic ones flung in, like abortion or ripping old people off or genociding older people. Sorry, euthanasia. There's always something that is satanic mixed in with something that sounds quite good. We're all expected to choose between these two satanic choices. Well, bog off. We're not going to we're going to take things seriously. So we're coming into a new time, and there was a slip sliding. That's what this post is about. Things initiate in a foggy kind of way, like when Elijah prayed about the rain, it just appeared. It was a clear blue sky probably for 3 years or something. Anyway, the first cloud had started appearing. His servant came back and said, there's a cloud the size of a man's hand. And this is how things begin. In Chalfont St Giles, it began as prayer meetings. The Anglicans weren't interested. The Anglicans are still stuck up their backsides in their own stupid liturgies instead of reading the Bible and learning a living relationship with the living God. So the other people had to meet in cottages. They started meeting in cottages. I don't know if they were Quakers. Did they move in the gifts of the Spirit? Like in 1 Corinthians 13, maybe they did. But the main thing was they're praying away, and then God's indicating about something about America and going to America. So happened, it's all connected in with William Penn happening to have a dad who the king wanted to honour for doing something for him with the navies. So that's how William Penn got handed this money to buy the Penn State. Or it's given to him anyway. It wasn't the money, it's actually given as king's land to William Penn. But it all began in a little prayer meetings. This Bill Bryson, disgusted at Chalfont St Giles, said in his Notes from a Small Island. It's a significant little piece of history, that, because it's not the whole of American history, but it's a pretty important strand, because it is part of the strand that was the great American experiment and the way things were going to be governed through sort of a more of an eldership idea. More of a co-run thing than having a king. And now we slip right back into Trump and Elon Dalekdom and just having one person do it all. He's got tons of systems behind him to be doing loads of things, but it's not what America is. See, Trump just hasn't got the idea. He's Luciferian anyway, because he's the Order of the Black Star, Black Sun or Black Star, one of those, and it's a deep dark order, so dark it appears lovely, and it fools all the ignorant Christians like me with the Trump hats and the Jared Kushner Q narrative and praying medic, totally swanning along with it, totally believing all of it, being a military person that can decode codes and all this kind of stuff. We're all swept up in this, but there it is. Jessie Sabota was at Elon Musk's initiation. She was there, present. She knows he's a witch. She knows what he is. And the same for the Trump family and all this deep dark order. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is there are these moments where history forks, and one was the formation of America. No, England wasn't good enough. No, England couldn't just continue to put any Bible-believing people, honest and Bible-reading and wanting to put the Bible into action and understand what it means for kingdom to operate on earth. Okay, we might never reach actual kingdom because it's not a human kingdom. It's a cloud the size of a man's hand appearing sort of manifestation type kingdom. But we can take steps and to continue putting churches and call them non-conformist when they're the only ones that are conforming, well, more. They're not really conforming to the Bible, but they were conforming a darn sight more than Anglicans and Catholic churches. And they just continued to put these churches 100 metres back off the high street. They're there to this day. My old Baptist church is one. And what were they else? And then the Quakers, they were preventing having anything to do with the government. They couldn't get into any of the higher education. So what did the Quakers do? Well, the Lord had them starting the whole Industrial Revolution. And then Rothschild had to put his hat on quickly because he thought, House of Rothschild thought, oh my goodness, well, I've got to get in on that one. And then started arranging all the laws to push people into the cities and off the fields or into the mines to create the coal, well, dig up the coal that was going to be needed for the Industrial Revolution. So God moves on regardless. God moves things on regardless. House of Rothschild can say what they like, but they're backward. They're always second run. They try with all the devious manipulation to be ahead, and they take every crooked system that they can by, like for example, having a mainline plug into the patents office, so they will always know ahead of time every single new patent, which they then copy in deep underground bases and nick and steal and develop, so that underground bases are now hundreds of years ahead of our own terrestrial science. They're always doing these kind of things, but you cannot beat God, who sees all, who sees Rothschild in the toilet, who sees everybody doing everything that they do. There's nothing you can do to fool God, who plans things, reveals directly by the Spirit, gives new ideas, gives new creative ideas, and moves the people who've gone on. But one thing that does happen is there's a split. And England can sit on their arses for the rest of time if they want. They can not follow God. They can do their imaginary Anglican liturgies or whatever they want. Or they can start to be enlightened, go in the Enlightenment, which is the endarkenment, and claim that God isn't even there. They can do what they like. Let's just be left behind. Like America went streaking right ahead. Largely because of the people of God, not the Freemasons. They're just like briars. They're briars on on people's hedges. They're briars in every administration. They leech every new idea and twist it for installing Satan as this dead sort of throne. You get rid of all the creativity, you get rid of all the God people, you get rid of all the baptized in the Spirit people, what you got left? Of course, obviously I'm saying that there are people moving creatively and being proactive and movers and shakers anyway, we know that. But the satanic way of doing things is so polarised. Like, we see it in USSR. Yes, they made many developments in health. They were streets ahead in certain ways. But it was always with a gearing to how can we quickly install Lucifer across the whole earth. That was their search in all their sciences. How can we control things so that we can better manipulate and force people into coming into the Luciferian system? It wasn't a real country. If it's a real country, it'd still be there, wouldn't it? Nobody wanted to live there, anywhere outside. There's only people wanting to leave USSR. This will be the same with Trump and Elon, or anybody who tries to exert their pyramid rule. It's not working. It can't work. And church is meant to be the administration that leads the way and shows. At the moment, every single church on earth doesn't obey a single word Jesus said. He gave gifts unto men. Every church is run by one person. It completely denies that there's such a thing as a Melchizedek order. Or, like Bill Johnson's church, they give Jesus about 40 minutes of time before Bill Johnson steps in like a pet pharaoh again. None of this is in Scripture. If we follow exactly what's in the Scripture, we start to get Amish results, and then from Amish results we start to move more in the Spirit as well, so we get more Spirit results. We're meant to be walking naturally and supernaturally at the same time. That's what's meant to be happening. So we waft along where what I'm trying to say about the different country type things. There are these different administrations that make sense in their own understandings, but they're not necessarily God's understandings, so they need to be added to and they need to be changed. And God's way of building seems and appears slow, but it's solid because it doesn't need to change. It doesn't need to about turn. It slowly builds, and that which it builds is the next stage. It's very like the way we grow up. The first thing we do is learn to walk, learn to talk. These are necessary for our later things that we're doing, and then everything's in its season. Everything's works out naturally. It seems to go all wrong when we start teaching people with our daft, really Talmudist teaching operations. They're coming from Talmudism. They're not coming from God. They're coming from a Luciferian network of how can we get the best out of hamsters who for the whole of their lives will live on hamster wheels, and we will give a little pension at the end. This is all coming from satanic stuff. It's got no idea. It's got nothing to do with life. And there comes a time where things sort of, it's like the Sliding Doors film I never saw. There's a time where things seem to work as two worlds, side by side. And then all of a sudden, there's a sliding doors moment. There's a separation. There's people going to America. There's people getting baptized in the Spirit in the 70s. We started learning a new and living and supernatural way. I'm not that good at it now. Someone a lot better than me than that. But we have a much more all-of-life concept of what's going on. We're not stuck in these stupid, conservative, liberal or Labour mindsets that are like pokey little mindsets that can't take the whole picture in. We're not in that. We're in the kingdom. And the kingdom is all the best of the Democrats, all the best of the Republicans, and all the best of loads of things that you have no idea of. Because they're learned in the Spirit, and they're given us in the Spirit as revelation. So that was happening. See, we've kind of had this nebulous time where you haven't known we existed, but the Jesus Revolution film, it came out in 2023, is the history, and it's presented to you at last so that you can hear about it. But this is what's been going on in the shadows. A whole generation of us have been learning a new way. There comes a time when there's a split and a dividing, and people just want to do their thing and carry on in their way. They can. They'll be like England, be left behind. Dopey old England. Obviously, when they started seeing what was going on in America, they tried to catch up and tried to copy some of the things that were happening over there. It's our choice. In northern France, by the way, because the Huguenots, you know about Huguenots? I've got an uncle or something, by one, however he is, how many removed he is. He's the man that invented contact lenses, and he sold his contract to Johnson & Johnson. So he had no idea what a Huguenot was, just that he is one. He was a Huguenot. Descent, and I was explaining to him who he was. Well, in northern France, where all these Huguenots were, with their immense creativity, and they were the craftsmen. Really, when they left, it wasn't like France replaced. There's a great sense of there's just agriculture there. There's not not a sense that anything ever got replaced. It was like a whole chunk of their soul was taken out of France. It's never been quite replaced. And so it is. If we're gonna persecute the people who've gone, if you're gonna try and push the people who've got out, well, you must suffer the consequences. It's kind of serious stuff. And I just want, that's the purpose of this post, is to say that this is beginning to be a sliding doors moment. This is beginning to be a separation where things really mean business. If people want what they want, they can have what they want. But there's another choice, which is we will have this man, capital M, rule over us.